G'day there guys, it's your Aussie Hubby Markee, back at it again with another r/legal advice video. Now if you love me like I love you, you'd mosey on over to that old like button and tackle it like Steve Irwin would a crocodile. Maybe even chuck an Aussie flag down in the comments too. I'm not stopping ya. Now with that out of the way, I want you to sit back, relax, chuck a prawn on the barbie, and get ready for some good content. California. Can I be forced to pay for damage to other parties' vehicle if they have full collision coverage? I think I may be being strong-armed. Hi all. Back in June, I unfortunately had a car accident and was 100% at fault, not due to negligence. I had the California state minimum of $5,000 in property damage coverage on my policy. The other driver has full collision coverage. The total claim came out to be around $7,500. 6 months after the accident, the other driver's insurance company sent me a letter stating the following. Your insurance company, 5 stars, has informed us your liability coverage policy limits are not sufficient to pay for damages caused to our insured as a result of this loss. Our insured's damages as a result of this loss are $7,529.81. After your insurance company pays your policy limits, the remaining amount is $2,529.81. If you have any other liability coverage that may apply to this loss, please let us know. If you don't have any other liability coverage, the remaining amounts will be your responsibility to pay. Please contact us within 15 days to discuss payment arrangements or use the enclosed self-addressed envelope to remit payment in full. My heart sank when I saw this, as it is 6 months after the fact, and I don't have the means to pay. When I was first giving my report to the other party's insurance company over the phone in June, they told me the damages were $5,500, and asked me if I wanted to contribute. I knew I did not have to, so I said no. I was suffering a massive financial setback as it was, as I had only liability coverage and completely lost my vehicle. I called my insurance today to let them know about this letter, and they made it clear that I did not have to contribute, that the other party has full collision coverage. They said there was a possibility that the other insurer could file suit against me to try to recoup the remaining balance, but that it was uncommon, especially over an amount like $2,500. I asked them to handle this for me, but they told me to contact the other insurer and speak to them myself. The other insurer has not yet signed a release absolving me of any financial obligation, as they are looking for other sources of funding first, according to my agent. My plan right now is to send a simple letter to the other party's insurance, stating that I have no other liability coverage and that I do not have the means to contribute at all. That way, I can avoid being asked a bunch of questions over the phone that could put me in territory I don't know how to navigate. So what's going on? Is this insurance company just trying to strong-arm me into contributing when I don't have to? What are the odds that I will be forced to pay? Thank you all, and a Happy New Year. So Clever Account Name 13 says, you are responsible for the full amount damage. Your insurance paid only a part. You are responsible for the rest. If you don't pay, they can sue you. Get a judgment and wait until you save money and collect from you then. And now, update. California, can I be forced to pay for damage to other parties' vehicle if they have full collision coverage? I think I may be being strong-armed. I realize that this update comes late. I'm afraid that I gave the wrong impression on my last post. I certainly wasn't trying to weasel my way out of responsibility, I was just very confused. Having been told after the accident that everything was covered, and then receiving a subrogation notice months later. I wanted to let you all know what came of this situation, in case it may serve as a help and warning to others. I consulted with an attorney. She gave me some free advice over the phone, and responded to the other party's subrogation letter with this response via certified mail. Claim number 10 hashtags, insured .. date of loss 6/4/2018. Amount of claim, $7,529.81. Dear Claim Specialist, I received your letter stating that my policy limits were insufficient to cover the stated claim amount of $7,529.81, with your request of payment from me in the amount of $2,529.81. I will require a hard copy of the itemized repair estimate for the insured party's vehicle, as well as a hard copy of proof of payment by the insurance company of said repair estimate, before being able to proceed further. I look forward to resolving this matter. Thank you. I never heard anything back. I called my own insurance company a couple months later to check in on things. They informed me that my case was completely resolved, that I owed nothing, and that the other party signed a waiver releasing me of any further responsibility. They waived their right to pursue me independently. All of this was finally behind me. I never owed anything, and yes, the other party's insurance company was trying to take advantage of me. They were not able to provide me with the proof I required in order to remit payments. I called the attorney back to thank her for her help and tell her what happened. She told me that insurance companies try to do this all the time, and it's perfectly legal. They will obtain multiple repair quotes, go with the cheaper one, but send you the more expensive quote and claim it's what you owe. It's disgusting. Now I'm just realizing that I probably got caught up in that myself back when I was learning to drive. God damn it. So always consult with an attorney and ask for proof before remitting payments on a subrogation claim. Don't let insurance companies intimidate you. This was a very happy ending for me through a very stressful situation. I hope this update helps someone else. Happy New Year. Edit: I did not expect this post to blow up. Thanks for the silver, strangers. I also wanted to add, based on some good points made during the discussion of my post, that I can't know for sure if the insurance company was trying to swindle me. That's just my perception of things, especially based on what my attorney told me. My main point is that it's easy for a layperson to feel intimidated into paying a subrogation claim, without demanding proof, of course. I'm encouraging folks not to let the stress and intimidation push them into remitting payments without demanding proof or consulting an attorney. There may indeed be other reasons why I wasn't required to pay that I don't know about, because the insurance companies didn't reveal them to me and I don't know the ins and outs of the industry. One user, who shall remain anonymous, messaged me with this possible explanation. Hey, so you actually did owe that amount of money. I'm a licensed insurance adjuster, for what it's worth. What happens is your insurance company says, if you don't accept the $5,000 and release rights to collect any more money from my insured, I'm not going to pay you anything, and you can then sue my insured. The other party's insurance then pays for a background check, essentially on you to see if you are likely to be able to pay the $7,500. They found you weren't likely to be able to pay, and they cut their losses by taking the $5,000 and signing the waiver. So yeah, best of luck to anyone else out there dealing with a subrogation claim. It sucks. Hang in there. And our next post is by user Scumbag Locksmith, titled, House guest had a deadbolt installed after being reminded that he'll have to leave soon. Questions about the situation in general, but specifically the locksmith's liability here. New York State. To be clear, this is not New York City. A childhood friend of my wife's, let's call him Pete, moved back to the area after the death of a parent and losing his job. We offered to let him crash in our spare bedroom for a month or so while he gets things figured out. Pete moved in on the 28th of March, and we had him sign something that said he would split on the 30th of June, whether he had his crap sorted or not. This was partially to put a hard limit on the amount of time he'd be living with us, but primarily because my brother is going to spend about 6 weeks in town for work, starting in mid-July, and will be staying with us. Pete didn't seem to be in much of a rush to find a new job, let alone find his own place. But he's in a bit of a funk due to the whole situation, so we'd be giving him the benefit of the doubt. On the 1st of June, my wife reminded Pete of the fact that he had to go at the end of the month. He said not to worry and that he'd definitely have something figured out by then. She gave him the same reminder on Wednesday, the 12th of the 6th. I'll spare you the details, but this time, Pete countered by confessing that he'd always been in love with her, and that she should leave me and I could find a new place to stay while they stay in the apartment. Which is sort of funny because while I consider this to be her apartment as much as mine, I purchased it before we met, and her name isn't on anything. Anyway, she obviously shut him down immediately, and Pete did not respond well. At all. No violence, but a ton of shouting, insulting, and attempting to guilt trip. It was intense enough that my wife just cut out to her mother's place, where she called me to fill me in on the situation. I went home from work and told Pete that we'd stick to the agreement despite his behavior, but the sooner he was out the better. I spoke to my wife later that evening, and we decided till Pete fricks off, She'll stay in an investment property of mine that is luckily vacant right now, but I'd start working remotely and stay at the apartment more or less 24/7. Both to make sure Pete doesn't do anything stupid, and because my presence in the living room would hopefully be more than a little awkward for him. So this morning around 6 o'clock, I left to run to the office to grab some stuff I'll need while working from home. I got back to the apartment about an hour and a half ago, and as I stepped out of the elevator, I saw a guy with a toolbox leaving my apartment, and immediately noticed that a new deadbolt had been installed in the door. I tried to explain the situation to the locksmith, but he basically told me that the lock's already in, and he gave the only key to the guy in the apartment. So it's between the two of us now. Lovely! I asked him for a card, and he said that he didn't have any, so I asked where he works. He told me that isn't any of my business, and reiterated that this is between me and Pete. I follow him downstairs, and luckily he was in a van that had a sticker with the company's name and info on the side. I called the number, asked to speak to the boss, and told him what had happened. He more or less did his best to not answer any of my questions, saying, "I'm sorry, but I don't have to inform you of our policies." Fine. So this is where I'm at now. I called the police just to get a report filed, but I am 100% sure that when the officers show up, they're going to tell me that it's a civil issue. I'm not expecting them anytime soon, as this is a pretty small potatoes deal in the city where the whole thing is taking place. I was actually all set to offer Pete a cash for keys deal if he wasn't getting his crap in gear by the 23rd of June. But I have a feeling that I'm going to have to evict now. I own a few investment properties and have gone through the eviction process before, so I know that will not be a fun process given how tenant-friendly my state is, but it is what it is. We've got that vacant rental property to stay in while everything gets sorted out, so that's covered as well. My only questions now are about who I can go after for what. On that note, here are my questions. I'm going to lose money on the rental that my wife and I will be staying in while the eviction gets handled. In fact, I've already done so, as I had just started advertising it, and will now have to pull the listing on a few sites, / drop a "sorry but" on anyone who responds to print ads I placed. Is this something I can sue for? In my mind, I'd name both Pete and the locksmith company in a suit, and let the judge decide who owes me what. But since I'm making the decision for us to occupy the space, do I technically have damages? When I get a deadbolt installed at my old rental, I had to show the locksmith a copy of my lease before they'd even touch the door. Was that just a company policy they were following, or is that a mandated law? If the latter, is there anything that I can go after them for? I don't care if it's trying to get criminal charges pressed, or just going the civil route. I am not hurting for money, so frankly, if I were to sue, it would be more about taking the pound of flesh that I feel I'm entitled to after they locked me out of my home. But I'd feel just as happy seeing the pound of flesh extracted in a manner that does not end up with me in possession of it. Anything else that I should be thinking about in this situation? I'm planning on asking the police to do a civil standby, or whatever it's called, so I can get a few important things out of my apartment. I am a little flustered and ticked off right now to say the least, so I just want to make sure there isn't anything I should be considering beyond that. Thanks in advance, and the cops are actually pulling up, so now I might have an update shortly. Edit 1. Just heard from the owner of the locksmith, who sounded about as ticked off as I am. He's sending a guy over with a new deadbolt and a few extra keys. Apparently, he's already arranged for his dude to show up with some cops, in case Pete is not a fan of the locks being changed. Bonus, in explaining that part to me, I got to hear somebody say, "I know a guy who knows a guy," in real life, and now I want to hang out with that dude. Edit 2. Mother-in-law took the wife out to get her mind off of this stuff, but she is now being returned to me, so I'm gonna stop staring at the internet. The locksmith will be here around 8 PM, and Pete's brother is going to swing through around the same time to see if he can talk some sense into him. Thanks for all the advice and well wishes. I'll try to update again tonight if anything interesting happens, but at this point, it'll most likely be tomorrow/Sunday. So this guy Strider says a whole bunch of stuff here, and OP replies to them in part. First part is, he was there more than 30 days, you are going to need to evict him if he's an ass and chooses not to leave. Fully expect that to be the case, and have already left a message with my RE attorney about getting the process started ASAP. I'm hoping that the fact that he signed a document agreeing to freak off by the end of June will move things along. But given how tenant-friendly New York State is, I am not too hopeful. Most states do not have laws requiring locksmiths to obtain specific proof. Most reputable companies will always ask for it. Do I still have an argument for negligence on the locksmith's part, even if there was a specific law being broken? Your tenant may have provided them some proof or residency like his driver's license or some type of bill. He still hasn't gone to the DMV to get a New York ID, and all of his mail goes to his mother's place. According to the cops, he just claimed to be renting the room from us with no actual documentation. The "I'll leave at the end of June" agreement didn't impress them. Didn't expect it to, honestly, given the current date and the fact that they rightfully wanted nothing to do with the situation. You can most likely only sue them for losses caused by their action, which you would have to document. Does this cover being unable to access my property because he won't give me a key? I'm going to the locksmith in person with a copy of my deed shortly, and hoping that there is something they can do with proof of ownership. If you reside there, I wouldn't leave, you have just as much right to live there. After posting, I decided to go this route. Then I spoke to his brother. Looks like Pete is kind of off the rails right now, so I am reconsidering. As much as I want to kick this guy's ass, I'm not interested in putting myself in a position that could very likely end in physical confrontation. Having an A and B charge will not go over well at my job. ETA? There is a 0 chance of my wife going back there till he is out anyway. The manner in which he flipped out on her when she had the nerve to refuse to leave me for him and to kick me out of my apartment was not explicitly threatening, but he was unhinged enough that she doesn't feel safe around him. I agree with her 100% on this. Provide proof of residence and have the police force him to let you enter and give you a key to the locks that he had changed. I did. They told him to give me a copy. He said he only has the one key and won't hand it over, and they washed their hands of it. Thanks for the advice. His brother is actually heading over there in a bit. I'm hoping that something positive comes of that. And what would you know it? Here's the update. So I got a call while I was getting ready to head back to the apartment to meet the locksmith. It was Pete's brother. Apologies for the lack of details here, but I don't know too much about exactly what went down. And a chunk of what I do know is sort of personal crap that the brother, who just did me an enormous favor, probably wouldn't want me sharing. Anyway, the gist of the phone call was that he went by and performed a third-party constructive eviction with the back of his hand. So Pete's gone, as is most of his stuff. His brother is going to swing by next week to grab any odds and ends that they may have missed. I am planning on making him dinner and hitting him off with a bottle of good old whiskey when he does so. As far as Pete goes, I'm thinking that I'll follow through with at least the early part of the eviction process, just in case he tries anything cute. Gonna speak to my attorney about that first, but he's still in the wind. Turns out he's staying at a cabin his girlfriend's family owns, and it's pretty much as close to being in the middle of nowhere as human-built structures get. His admin/paralegal, I don't know what she is specifically, but she said that yesterday was the one day that he wasn't going into town for self-service. This gives us the opportunity to convince him that the situation is currently way worse than it ever was. And as much as I love this guy, he's really fun to frick with, so that's cool. After speaking with him, I called the owner of the locksmith to let him know that the apartment was vacant, so his guy wouldn't need to show up with police. Turns out, he was planning on coming by to handle this himself anyway, so that was easy enough. So I met him over there, and he had a handful of deadbolts for me to choose from, and he switched out the lock in about 5 minutes. We got to bullcrapping about baseball because that's what you do in New York. And this led to him accepting my offer to buy him a beer so we could watch the White Sox smack our Yankees around. I got some backstory at the bar, and while this is second-hand information, this dude seems pretty reliable, so I got no reason not to believe him. The guy who came over yesterday morning was indeed an employee of his, but he wasn't on the clock and actually borrowed the deadbolt without mentioning anything. Turns out he's an old friend of Pete's, and has been fed a story about an insane landlord who had decided to move into the apartment Pete was renting. Brilliant. Anyway, my new locksmith buddy told me that this guy was officially unemployed as of that afternoon. I would feel bad for the dude, but I'm too busy not caring about what his motivation was due to the complete and total lack of any attempt to verify the story he'd been fed. This also explains the non-answers that I got when I called the shop. The person I spoke to was the manager, who had absolutely no idea what I was talking about. He was basically trying to buy some time to speak with the owner and the guy who installed the deadbolt, instead of just pulling an excuse out of his ass for me. I wish he would have told me that in the first place, but I do appreciate the fact that he didn't just try to go into CYA mode for the company / his now former co-worker. All in all, I have a new preferred locksmith for when I need something done at any of my properties. So really, the only legal crap left is the restraining order, and Pete very kindly sent my wife a few emails last night upon figuring out that she'd blocked his number. Not gonna go into detail, but I'll just say that the contents should make the restraining order easy to get. So thank you for all the help and well wishes, but it seems like this is more or less a wrap-up, and a pretty amusing one too. My wife's gone from upset about the whole thing to uncharacteristically indignant, which she's admitted is kind of cathartic for her, so I don't even have a reason to feel guilty about laughing about what a moron Pete is. Again, thanks all. And our next post is by Revolution Starter, titled, "My friend is being held captive by her husband and she's an illegal immigrant." So I met this lady a while ago at a church during a community thing. She was pretty subdued but gave me her number. When I got home, I called her and she let loose her problems on me. Apparently, she met her husband 5 years ago when he went back to her country for a visit. They dated for a while and were doing LDR until he proposed. She'd just finished university and he told her he wanted her to move to the US with him, that she could file for a green card. He went back to her country to marry her. He's also from there. The first red flag was that he told her she didn't need a fiancé K1 visa, and since they were married, she could just come on her regular visa, since she already had that. He said he would start the paperwork for her green card and work permit once she arrived. She got there, and after a few months, he said he changed his mind and wouldn't file for her. She found out from a friend of his that he never intended to. That was 3 years ago. She has 3 kids now with no driving license, no SSN, she can't work or even get out on her own. She's allowed to take an Uber to church, but only so her husband can track her through it. She didn't want to say, but I got the idea that her visa is expired and her days might be numbered until she gets a social security number at least. Divorce is tricky because they got married out of the country, and since her kids are US citizens, if she leaves the country, she might not get to see them as their father definitely won't let them go. She says he doesn't care about them much, but gets some sort of welfare check through them. Not sure about this, but she herself didn't know how it really works. Is there any way this lady can help stay legally, or at least be able to see her kids if she leaves the country? And now onto our update. My friend is being held captive by her husband, and she's an illegal immigrant. I posted about my church friend who was being held captive by her husband a few weeks ago. Those who advised that she might be tricking me, I'm glad I didn't listen to you. It's been a whole ride. Remember when I said her husband hasn't taken to violence? Well, that wasn't true. She had lied and didn't tell me that he'd slapped her a few times. Once in front of her children because she didn't consider it a big deal, and she slapped him back. But a few days ago, he beat her because she found out he has a girlfriend. I hadn't even seen or heard from her a few days ago because she didn't go to church and wasn't answering her phone. During that time, he threatened to rat her out to ICE because her visa is expired, so she was afraid of even going to toss the trash. Somewhat good news. His friend, who had been the one to tell her that her husband had been lying to her about applying for a spousal green card, apparently felt too guilty and actually called the police on her behalf the same day she'd gotten beaten. The husband had apparently ranted to him about everything so stupidly, and the friend couldn't stand it anymore. The police came to the house with the friend and arrested the husband. She was hurt and had enough injuries for them to actually take them seriously. She got the friend to call me, and she's been in my place since. We contacted a very helpful organization who have provided her some supplies, counseling, and are contacting a lawyer on her behalf. The friend has also gotten an immigration lawyer to help her apply for the U visa. I spoke with her family, who sadly weren't supportive, and even blame her. Apart from her sister, who was ready to fly down until the COVID-19 outbreak caused the travel ban. She has proof from texts and calls of her sister complaining about her husband. The friend also, thankfully, has messages from the husband where he talked about his wife's legal status and his affair. The only issues we have so far are that getting a divorce when they were married abroad. The only one who is trying to help her is her sister, and the poor girl doesn't know much about the process. CPS was called, and for now the children are staying with us in my apartment, but her mother-in-law has hinted that she will file for custody and will let the husband see his kids. But I told her that she's an accessory, because there's no way she didn't know her son had refused to file for his wife, and was not letting her go anywhere alone. Her brother-in-law is now begging us not to let his brother get charged, and that he will personally make sure the family gets her a green card. Pretty sure he's lying there. Yeah, he's definitely lying there, buddy. All in all, things are looking optimistic, and I'm sure they'll remain that way. Thank you for all your advice. And our last post is by Is There Sugar in Syrup? Titled, Arizona. Received a summons for a debt on a hospital stay that I never had. So I received a summons for a hospital stay I never had, saying that I owed the hospital $10,102.18 for a stay starting on the 19th of November 2018. The main issue is I was never in the hospital. I have records showing I was at work during the day and at the gym in the evening. I am ready to fight it, but I was reading the summons, and it says I need to respond within 20 days of filing. I wasn't served until after the 20 days were up, and I had no idea about the debt. Is there any recourse? When the guy who banged on my door gave me the paperwork, he never had me sign anything proving that it was on that date. I do, however, have the Ring doorbell and a video of the entire conversation with a timestamp. My question is, what do I do? Is it too late to fight it? And update to wrongfully being sued by the hospital for an unpaid debt. There wasn't a whole lot of traction, but I finally have an update. After months of correspondence with the hospital's attorney, they decided to drop the case without prejudice. We are each responsible for our own legal fees. I'm okay with that since I spent less than $100 total. The attorney for the hospital was actually a pretty nice guy. He was very patient with me getting him the documents they needed to prove that the debt wasn't mine. I ended up sending him the police report, an identity theft affidavit, a printout of my gym session, thank you Orange Theory for emailing a workout summary with the day and time that you're there, and another document showing I was at work earlier in the day. They ended up asking for a copy of mine and my husband's driver's licenses, with our signature signed 5 times. When they didn't come back as a match to the hospital forms, it was dismissed very shortly after. I'm just glad this whole ordeal is over, and I can now refinance my house without the worry of a collection account showing up. Silver lining, mortgage rates are so much lower than they were 9 months ago. Oh, you know, that's very true, isn't it? The mortgage rate, that got me, fuck. Mortgage rates are a lot lower, gotta love that, interest rates, boys. Tell me what you thought about that one, guys. I hope you enjoyed this story. I went through some moods today when I was recording this one. Nothing going to talk about my personal life. You know how it is. Sometimes we good, sometimes we bad. Hope you guys are enjoying this one, this content. I'm going to stop doing legal advice for a little while because it's not doing too well, I guess. Maybe in like a week I'll have another one up. Maybe I'm lying. Maybe I'll just have one up in a few days. You never know with Markee. He's unpredictable. Anyway guys, I hope you have a good day, night, sleep, evening, whatever you're up to. I'll see you in the next post, and good night.